Well, this video is titled The Many Hats of the Hebrew Hey. You may have noticed if you've looked through this chapter a little bit already, or you may have noticed as you've been just paying attention throughout the course of the year, that the letter Hey gets used in a variety of different situations in the Hebrew language to communicate all kinds of different things. It's an interesting letter. It's really the letter of breath. It's the letter that it's almost a silent letter. It's inarticulated breath. It's just the letter of life, in a sense. The letter of breath, of breathing. And it's not incidental that the verb haya, hey, yod, hey, all three of which are weak letters, is the word to be, just mere existence. Hey, yod, hey is kind of like breathe out, yod, breathe in, hey, breathe out again. Or hey, breathe out, yod, pause, hey, breathe in again. The first and sort of main one that I thought of was the definite article. The letter hey is the definite article when it appears at the beginning of a word, followed by a patach, followed by dagesh forte. The letter hey is used as the third feminine singular affix when it's preceded by a kametz. It's also, when preceded by a kametz, the third feminine singular suffix when it has a mapik in it. It's also a third feminine singular suffix when it appears at the end of a verb or some other word and is followed by a kametz and does not have a mapik. You can see that in the charts for the other video for this week on page 135. The kametz hey is a feminine singular noun and adjective ending. It's what differentiates masculine singular from feminine singular, because masculine singular nouns and adjectives do not have a specific letter or ending. They just end with whatever and the root of that word ends with. But the feminine singular is differentiated by concluding with a kametz hey. A kametz hey can be added to the end of an imperative form to communicate emphasis. Sometimes. Other times it doesn't communicate anything other than it just makes the word a little bit longer. It can also be attached to the end of cohortative verbs, first person, imperfect forms, to communicate the cohortative, which is a form of the subjunctive. It can be added to, these last two are what we'll talk about in this chapter. It can be added to a noun to communicate direction, movement in a particular direction, similar to our word towards, or actually most similar to the English suffix word or words, W-A-R-D or W-A-R-D-S, as in towards. And finally, the hey in Hebrew is the equivalent of the English question mark, called the interrogative hey. So let me start with that one. Now, hopefully after hearing that whole list, you have categories in your mind where, okay, those things make sense. I know what that is, I know what that is, I know how to recognize that, I understand that. And after this video, you'll have all of them, including these two, firmly locked in your brain, I'm sure. Okay, the interrogative hey. Hebrew, like Greek manuscripts, have no punctuation. No commas, no semicolons, no periods, no exclamation marks, no quotation marks, and no question marks. No punctuation whatsoever. They don't even have lowercase and capital letters to know where a sentence begins and ends. And so, one of the ways that Hebrew incorporates some elements of punctuation is by using certain words, or in most cases, letters. And one of the main ones is the letter hey here. So if you have a hey followed by the composite patach vowel, the patach shva vowel, then if it's on the beginning of a word, chances are very, very good that you have an interrogative hey. And all the interrogative hey does is it's similar, in some ways, it's similar to the direct object marker, which is not translatable. It doesn't correspond to a particular English word. All it does is it tells you that the next word is the direct object. Well, all the interrogative hey tells you is that what follows formulates a question of some sort. So it's not like the interrogative hey translates into the question word who, or how, or why, or where, or what. It does not correspond to an English word. It's just an indicator, a sign, if you will, pointing to the presence of an oncoming question that you then have to translate the words together and formulate how best to frame that question. What question word or words or phrase will best capture the question latent in the words following the interrogative hey? That's really the question as an interpreter and a translator that you have to ask yourself. Okay, so let me give you two examples. The first one is a very well-known question, perhaps the most well-known question in the Old Testament. It comes from Genesis chapter 4, verse 9. And you know the words. Ha-shomer, ha-shomer, right? So this is not saying the protector, the guarder, the keeper. It's ha-shomer, protector, guarder, watcher, keeper, right? You see? Achi, achi, ach is the word brother, and e here is the possessive suffix. My brother, anochi, I. So the question is, we have keeper, which is the traditional translation. Keeper, my brother, I. Those are the words that we have. Now, out of that, we have to formulate a question. So the traditional rendering, of course, is, am I my brother's keeper? So taking the I and moving it to the beginning, am really is the question word of choice. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's guardian? Am I my brother's watcher? Am I my brother's guarder? Am I the one set here to guard him, protect him? Okay, next example. This comes from later in Genesis, chapter 13, verse 9, as Abraham and Lot are moving on progressively across the countryside. Halo chol haaretz lefanecha. Halo chol haaretz lefanecha. So just go through and translate each word. Again, question, interrogative hey. Lo, not. Chol, all or whole. Haaretz, the land, the earth, the region. Lefanecha, literally to the face of you, but more colloquially, before you. Before you. So again, we have to formulate this into a question. Not all the earth or the land before you? Is not all the land before you? Abraham says to Lot, choose then where you will go. You go to the right, I'll go to the left. You go to the left, I'll go to the right. So sometimes it's just the position of the verb to be in English that indicates a question. It's the difference between it is right and is it right. You see that? So in both of these cases, a version of the verb to be was positioned ahead. In the first position was prioritized, and that created a question in English. Sometimes it won't be quite that simple, but those are two examples to get you started. But these are the letters you want to look for. Now, the textbook lists some of the alternative forms. For instance, if the interrogative hey is placed before a guttural, it'll be a slightly different form. You can look in the textbook for that in that section. Okay, and finally, the directional hey. Hebrew loves to end words with a comma's hey. And different words in different contexts with the comma's hey mean different things. In this specific example, a comma's hey at the end of a noun communicates, in a certain context, communicates movement in the direction of the noun the hey is attached to. Okay, so let me give you two examples. The first one comes from the book of Jonah. This is the first chapter. Tarshisha. Tarshisha. Tarshish is the name of the city, Tarshish, of course. And Tarshisha is the direction the boat Jonah boards is moving. And so he boards, pays the fare, and goes Tarshisha. Tarshish words, or toward Tarshish, or to Tarshish. In many cases, the comma's hey, directional hey, functions similarly to the prepositional phrase created by the preposition el. In fact, it's used synonymously in Jonah with that. El Tarshish, to Tarshish, or Tarshisha, Tarshish words, or to Tarshish. Same basic concept. Okay, now this one is a little bit different. Vayipol, that's not a word that you know, but it's and he fell. Nafal is coincidentally the word to fall. Nafal, to fall. Vayipol, and he fell. The noun is right there as an assimilated noun, a dagesh forte. Vayipol, and he fell, al, upon, panav, panim, his face, av is a third masculine singular. This vav is the third masculine singular suffix attached to a plural noun, takes its comets, yod, vav. That's the form. That's on page 47. You can look there if you want to review suffixes attached to plural nouns. Panav, and he fell, vayipol, al, upon, panav, his face, arza. Arza. Eretz is earth. Arza is earthward. He fell upon his face, with his face moving towards the earth. This, of course, comes from 1 Samuel 17, the climactic moment when David strikes Goliath in the forehead with the rock, and Goliath falls upon his face to the ground. As Tom Bogart has talked about many times, and it was sort of revealed to him when he started seeing the biblical narratives instead of just reading them. The very position or posture Goliath told the Israelites that they would move into if he killed the man he was to fight is that Israel would serve the Philistines. But if Goliath was killed, the Philistines would serve Israel. And here Goliath falls upon his face to the ground, which that actual posture is dramatically and theologically significant because he has fulfilled his word. He is in a posture not only of service but of worship with his face towards the ground. So the comma's hey, directional hey, the directional hey is like the English suffix word, towards, earthward. And that's the many uses of the Hebrew hey.